I feel nice. Na, 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 na. Like sugar and spice. Na, 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 na. I feel nice. Like sugar and spice. Oh, so nice. Bum, bum, so nice. Who had caffeine? Because I got you. Bum, 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 bum. And frozen. The sugar and spice part, clearly because we're in the holidays. And the caffeinated part, clearly because, well, welcome to my lair, the lion's lair, Nathan Lyon, to be exact. Wow. That was quite an intro, and I'm exhausted, to be quite honest with you. Hello and welcome to everyone who is here live. Hello and welcome to everyone who's going to be watching in the future. My name, of course, thank you to Debbie's Dream Foundation for making this happen. My name is Nathan Lyon. I am from Arlington, Virginia. I earned a health sciences degree from James Madison University with a public health minor. I moved to California with an aching in my heart, where I earned a where I went to UCLA Extension to become a medical technician. I was like, nope. Decided to go to Le Cordon Bleu, North America, where I finished the top of my class. And then most importantly is actually I worked for farmers, worked for and with farmers here in Southern California for over a decade. In addition to the last 15 years, I've been cooking on television. I earned an Emmy nomination for my last healthy travel food show, and I have an acclaimed seasonal cookbook where I broke it all down by seasons. And I'm only 22. Imagine all of that before 22. But it's not just about me. You would think it, but it's not just about me. Most importantly, Mary Eve Brown, how the heck are you and how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, Chef, thanks for asking. It was fantastic. And I'm going to share something with you. So I pick a cookbook a week. I cook out of that cookbook, and guess whose cookbook is coming up next week?
You know, the thing about Mary Eve Brown, she is a clinical oncology dietitian specialist. I have separation anxiety. I know she's there. I just want to hear her voice. She's at Johns Hopkins Kimmel Cancer Center, and I cannot be so, I thank my lucky stars that she's here because I would be lost at sea. I make up the cooking portion. I would like to say that Mary Eve Brown makes up the cerebral portion, where she answers all of the questions that you may have, which brings me to your questions. If you have any questions about cooking, by all means, type it in the little chat box there. And this voice right here, that is Sarah. For those of you that have joined us before, you know that Sarah is the conduit that makes this conversation occur. She's the one that's behind the scenes, makes those great close-ups for cooking. And if you have any questions for me, she will let me know what those questions are. And any questions for Mary Eve, by all means, type them in. And then Sarah will relay those questions to Mary Eve Brown. So,
And it's already a vibrant chat box.
oh,
We have people here
woo.
from Chicago, we have Kansas, we have New Jersey, we have Rhinebeck, New York, California here. We're all over the place.
You get a pork tenderloin, and you get a pork tenderloin, and you get it. Well, anyway, thank you so much for joining us for this hour. We only have you for an hour. It feels a little bit like romp room. I see New Jersey, I see Kansas, I see California, but it means the world to us that you would join us here live. The questions always help tremendously, and it keeps things really energetic, as does the caffeine. We have 5 things that we'll be preparing today. So I wish we could just sort of do a little tap dance, a little soft shoe, a little sock hop, but we really need to get going, okay? Better now than ever, yeah? What do you think? I did mention the everyone gets a pork tenderloin. I will be making a spice rub pork tenderloin today, but it would be very, very tender, very, just really easy to make. And as I'm sort of preparing this spice rub, Mary Eve, is there sort of like certain proteins that'll be easier for people to digest, or is it like animal proteins across the board, including fish, that'll be a little bit more easeful for people to digest as they're recovering? Question.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So sometimes meat can turn people off if their appetite is low or if they're queasy, if they're in treatment soon after surgery. So sometimes protein can come from the animals if that's what the patient wants. I had a patient, he's like, all I want to eat is beef right now. I'm like, okay, go for that. I have other people like, I can't stand the smell of it. So it's individual to individual. But protein is super duper important for people in treatment, people in recovery, and you want to eat protein every time you eat. Some dairies can sometimes work, sometimes dairy doesn't work. I like this pork tenderloin because it's a very lean cut. So it's easier to digest than something that has a lot of fat in it. So this is a perfect protein to use if you are having kind of digestive problems.
Beautiful. Now, my other question being, as a chef, and you and I, we never go head to head. Actually, we are holding each other up like cheerleaders, quite honestly, which I was in college. Can you tell? It's true. It's a true story. I don't say many true things, but this is true. Now, as a chef, when I look at pork tenderloin or any sort of pork, I think it is, by the USDA standards, safe to consume at 145. If I pull it at an internal temperature of 145 and let it rest for at least 3 minutes. What Sarah and I have done is we have a pork tenderloin recipe that's in the cookbook, and we pull it at 145. And I had an internal temperature probe just sitting in the pork tenderloin, and the temperature keeps going up for 15 minutes. So if I pull it at 145 or 140 even, it'll keep going up to like 150. How do you feel about that, given the importance of making sure that meat, pork, chicken is cooked through a temperature that's safe enough for patients?
Yeah, that's a great point. So if you are immunocompromised, which means that your immune system is not fighting the way it needs to fight because you're in some kind of treatment, we say 165. I know as a chef, you're going to want to shoot me with a BB gun with that, but I know.
I'm so sorry.
Nothing can be pink. Nothing can be pink.
She doesn't know what she's talking about. Okay, 165. That's good to know.
Well, that's only if you're immunocompromised, right? So it's this particular type of white. So we have a bunch of different white cells, which are all our fighters. We've got eosinophils, we've got neutrophils. So the neutrophils are the one that we watch clinically the closest. And if that goes below a certain number, you are at more risk of getting anything. And one of the ones that can be really detrimental is a foodborne illness. So if I ate something under and I got E. coli, or I ate an undercooked egg and I got salmonella, or all of those things, it could actually be fatal. So it's something that we take very, very seriously. But that's only if you are neutropenic. If your immune system is rocking, do as chef says.
Okay.
And I just have a comment from June who says, my surgeon told me to never eat pork after my stomach was removed. And then she asked, have others been told the same? And we have DDF chiming in saying, nobody told me this, but pork has been really hard for me since my surgery, so I do not eat it anymore.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm done with this. Pork, I'm just going to throw it away.
Everybody is different. Every surgery can be different. So there might have been a particular thing that surgeon said to that person. But universally, pork can be eaten. It's the cut that's the important part, right? So the lower the fat in the cut, which a loin, super lean, it should be tolerated. The other thing I would suggest to you is, if you haven't done this yet, you could do like something ground, like a ground pork. Try that first because it's already kind of cut up a little bit, and before you move into a cut. Okay,
that's great. All these things are, again, thank you so much for that, Mary Brown, and everyone for chiming in. Just in case you're wondering what I've done thus far, for those of you that you feel that pork tenderloin, a nice, lean, delicate cut can work for you. This spice rub was fennel, coriander, paprika, salt, and pepper. I just mixed that together, put it over top, a thin layer of extra virgin olive oil. And inside this oven, which I have set to 375, is a sheet pan with foil line on it. Instead of making a big smoky mess on the stovetop, sometimes it's nice to really get a nice piping hot sheet pan. I'm going to put this pork on top and we'll put it back in the oven, okay? There we go. It's nice to know what the actual temperature is. Get a nice dial thermometer for yourself. And this goes in on top. It's a very gentle sizzle that you're hearing here, and it goes back in, okay?
Was it fennel, salt, pepper, and something else?
Coriander and paprika.
Coriander.
Yeah.
Okay.
Coriander, which is, at least for me, it's a lovely floral quality to it. the thing about spice crusting, a lot of people will, put the pan, make it nice and hot, and then put too much olive oil or oil on the top, and they put meat or steak or fish in there, and there's so much oil that spatters all over the place. If you want to do a stovetop cook, a little chefy thing for you, anything you have, fish, steak, chicken, whatever, actually just coat it in oil lightly. You don't have to put a lot of oil in the pan. And that way it's just enough to transfer that heat and get good color on it. All right. So that's just a good way to make sure you're not splattering, and then cleanup's going to be kind of be a pain in the bottom. All right. So that's the first thing. We're well on our way as far as the pork tenderloin. Pork and something else that's very much in season right now, apples. We're going to make a cinnamon spiced apple chutney. Okay. Now I've gone ahead and peeled maybe 3 apples right here thus far. Here's my little 4th apple. Apples are very much in season, and just because you can have them year round, the industry can store them commercially for well over a year, but the nutrition does go down over time. Right now, apples are in season, okay? And right now is a really good time for you to pull out, old school grandma stops. I bet Sarah a lot of money to see if I can get this one in one fell swoop. I mean, this could be as expensive my student loans were to pay off. So that's why I'm not looking into the camera. If I do so, I'm going to lose this massive bet. All right.
Your grandma would be so proud.
My grandmother would be so proud, but she did it with a knife. I'm doing it with a peeler. She was a tough lady, and boom, one earring down. Thank you very much. All right. So what I'm doing
That's
is,
a true talent right there. That's a
right?
true talent.
I mean,
Mary was classic.
it was $50,000 in student loans. So that was not nothing. Now, the reason why we're doing this is because, well, one, apples are delicious. I did peel the skins off because we've been together for quite some time, Mary Eve, and I know that the skins are going to be something that will be very difficult for people to digest. And even
What's the type of apple you got? What's the type
What was
of
that?
apple? What's the type of apple?
This is a gala apple. There are certain types of apples that are going to be, a little bit sweeter. The sugar content on modern apples are really high. If you're in the Northeast, if you have anywhere that has a little bit of height to it, a little bit of elevation, I really think you should go check out all the different types of apples, because I'm always going for the darkest red skin that I could find on an apple. So the nutrient's going to be the highest. There are certain types of apples, like a Granny Smith, that's yellow or green, where the nutrition is actually really very high. So, just do a little research, taste things when you can, and then, use things when they're in season, as always. All right.
What is
So-
the skin, Mary Eve? Is it just the actual fiber of it, or is there something else in the skin that's the problem?
No, it's the fiber that can be really hard to digest.
Okay.
I also, when I'm cooking with apples, I usually do 2 or 3 different types just to get the different profiles in there. And chef, when we eat seasonally, we're eating closer to ourselves, and that means less storage time, less transportation time, more
Right.
nutrition. So yeah, you can eat seasonally. And also the thing about seasonally is it gets you eating a wide variety of different foods. I'm not eating blueberries every month. I'm not eating broccoli every month, right? So I'm going to be eating in season to get a wider variety of colorful fruits and vegetables.
Oh, 100%. In addition to, one of the things that I'm reminded of being from Arlington, Virginia, is that come wintertime, we would put our summer stuff up in the attic. And come summer, we would bring our winter things, back down, and so on and so forth. Here in Southern California, this is my winter shirt. It does get chilly. It was like down to low 40s. And it does get cold, where our house is actually in Austin, Texas. It gets sub-zero temperatures. But that being said, in the summertime, Mother Nature puts things in front of you. She grows things for you locally that don't need cooking. Think fruit salads, watermelon, berries, lettuces, those types of things. Everything in gazpacho, you can eat raw tomatoes. But when it's cold out, she wants you to turn the oven on. She wants you to roast vegetables, root vegetables, pumpkins, squashes, things like that are going to be, really easeful to prepare. And everything that is grown in season actually works together in a dish. I really believe that.
Yep.
I
do too.
It's so easeful when you throw all the different vegetables that you find at the farmer's market together on a sheet pan and you roast the darn thing. It's gonna be good. Speaking of good, Mary Eve Brown, I'm gonna put this in my pocket.
What is that?
That's Ginger, one of Mary Eve Brown. I think that's your middle name, is it not? Mary Eve Ginger Brown, maybe. Could be.
I'm really a natural redhead. I didn't tell that. Ginger is my.
I love ginger. So I have some fresh ginger. I have some spices. I have my pan heating up here. I'm going to start with some butter. Okay, I'm going to brown this butter. The pan is on like medium right now. I'm going to add this butter. It's going to start to brown. And the reason for that is because I know, I'm not just saying your last name. I'm thinking that I know that a lot of people recovering can't have nuts or seeds, but mostly nuts. Brown butter has a nice nutty flavor to it. So you're able to really enjoy that like deep roasty nut flavor quality without actually ingesting any sort of nuts that might make digestion kind of a pain in the butt. We're going to let this brown for just a second. And then what's going to happen?
It's such a simple thing that I don't think people do. And it makes it brown butter. Oh my gosh. And
that's right.
Fresh sage in that. And yeah, I don't know. My mind.
We've got just the thing. Goes with winter. It goes with apples, rosemary. Okay. Anytime you have something with an essential oil, like garlic, you've seen me use, spices, of course, have essential oils. Something like rosemary, where you squeeze it with your fingers or your hands, and you smell your hands, and it smells amazing. Those are essential oils. So what I'm going to do is take a sprig of rosemary and then just bruise it up with my fingers. Okay, that's all I'm doing. So it's starting to brown. You can't quite see in here, but most of the foam has kind of come up, it foams up, and then the foam subsides, and then it starts to brown, sometimes pretty quickly, depending upon how high you have your heat. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the spices. The spices are allspice, cinnamon, and cumin, and black pepper. And what this does, it's called blooming. I'm blooming the spices. It brings them back to life. And that only takes about 30 seconds. You've seen me cook with garlic before, and I'll add garlic to oil, and it blooms the essential oils in the garlic. I'm doing the same thing, but with spices here. They look pretty good. It's foamed up. It smells lovely. Then everything goes into the pool. Everything. So let me show you. If you listen closely, yes.
Chef, spices are huge cancer fighters. Huge.
Perfect.
Anti-inflammatory. Yep.
I mean, definitely ginger. I mean, ginger is one of those things. Garlic is one of those things. Like it's almost like with I keep mentioning garlic, but garlic, they call it Alice in Wonderland because of Allison. One of the two components in garlic that's like antifungal, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-cancer. I mean, it's pretty great.
The alleles, yeah.
As a chef, to keep myself amused in the kitchen, sometimes I like to just listen closely as I hear the joy and happiness of it's almost laughter. If you get, it's just they just have a lot of fun. You know, right now there's a party happening in here, not just here, but in here. There's brown butter, there's spices, there's rosemary, there's some apples. Okay, it's not just the thing. I do need a little bit of liquid. Okay. Just a touch. Apples and apple cider vinegar, it's almost like a slow motion reunion between two lovers, isn't it? Dun, 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 dun. Then we'll go ahead and add some apple cider vinegar. Is there any reason why I wouldn't use vinegar in this, Mary Eve?
No, vinegar's fine.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Then we'll just top that off. One for the chef, one for everyone else. Some salt. Kosher salt and freshly ground black pepper's already in there. And that's it, okay? They all just went in there. We have the ginger, the garlic, the ginger, spices, rosemary, apples, apple cider. And all I'm going to do is put a lid on it. Let that run. The fat that's in that brown butter is going to make it so the spices that are in there, those warming spices, the essential oils from the rosemary, all of it kind of gets together. And so every bite you get a little bit of rosemary, a little bit of ginger, a little bit of spice, and it's going to be wonderful with the pork tenderloin. Okay, let me put a lid on this bad boy.
Speaking of the pork, you're ready to flip your pork.
Already ready to flip the pork. Okay. Also, I hadn't mentioned this before. Use me for any sort of questions you have for the holidays or your birthday's coming up, like this sort of thing. You see me use it all the time. Bench scraper. It's like $10. I have a $1.15 one over here. So let me know if you have any questions about anything like that too. All right. Pork, it's coming out. Not for long, just to rotate it. But it smells pretty fabulous. It smells pretty good. I'm going to rotate this now to a new area. This is kind of important. The part that the pork was sitting on, it's not as hot as the metal that's next to it. So I just push it off just a little bit. We're going to put this back in. It's getting a little bit of color, which is nice, but it's not overcooking. It's not overcooking. We're going to pull this out at exactly 165 degrees on the dot, Mary Brown, the dot. All right.
I knew this was going to be a thing. As soon as I set it out, I'm like, he's going to get on me about that one.
It was like playing wiffle ball. You set them up and I just knock them right out of the park. Okay. Next up, what are we on now? We're on a third thing, 3 out of 5. We're doing pretty good. We're not even halfway there. Creamy pumpkin ginger soup. This is a pretty easy one. Okay. When Sarah and I developed this recipe, we want to make sure it's very easeful. Want to make sure your kitchen smells amazing. Want to make sure you can use either your blender or your immersion wand. Thank you. This is a best of, the last of the year best of that we have going on. This is fennel. You would normally see it at the farmer's market with these big fronds, okay? And they're just really, really tall. These portions right here, it's kind of like celery. You could braise them, but they're really kind of hardy. They don't really break down very much. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut these off, this top portion. And for those of you wondering, what the heck am I doing just throwing food on what seems to be the ground? It's not the ground. This is my compost bowl. Okay, it's on a little stool to be off the ground. So I'm just throwing everything in here so I don't have to constantly move stuff off to the side. And it's my compost bowl. At the end of the day, I can just throw all that in the compost. Okay. So with fennel, I cut the tops off. I cut the stem end off, the grow part. Now, because we're going to be cooking this in stock, this is time to have fun. Slow down and have some fun. If you want to work on your knife skills, go for it. If you want to just chop the heck out of it because you've had a hard day, you can do that too. Normally, I would be a little bit more, I don't know, cautious about knife skills, just because if I'm sauteing, I want to make sure if it's an onion that you don't get a teeny little piece that's going to burn and then a big giant piece that might be raw. You know, just be a little bit more cognizant about your knife skills. But with this one, I can just go ahead and cut through, let's say, 1/3 of an inch. And if it comes apart a little bit, you can laugh at yourself, give it a turn away, have some fun, but be really careful up to a point, because clearly you only have 8 fingers and 2 thumbs, so be really careful. Make sure your knives are nice and sharp. And this fennel is going to make your kitchen smell lovely. It smells a little bit like anise. It doesn't smell like licorice per se, because that's like saying 165 degrees to a chef and they start to tick. It's like saying cilantro and everyone's like, screw this guy, bleed. So it could be, you just never know who's going to react to what. But it smells like anise. It's really lovely, has a wonderful crunchy texture. But we're going to cook this down quite a bit, all right? I'm not even going to put olive oil in here. I'm just going to go ahead and put the fennel in this large pot. Okay, that goes in. Use your
fennel is also like ginger. It's a digestive aid. So it's really easy to digest. Cooking it is probably best. Okay. Yeah, I don't think people know about it as much. I think they're kind of scared because it looks alien.
If you enjoy the texture of celery, I think fennel has that, but with exponentially more flavor on offer that fennel has. It's really good when you're dipping it in hummus or as spreads or anything like that. But yeah, we're going to cook the bejiggers out of this, which is okay, because normally if you were to cook something in water, all the water nutrient minerals and vitamins go out in the water, but we're going to be eating this, as I learned that from Mary Eve Brown. Little tippity tip of the hat to Mary Eve Brown. So all the nutrients stay inside.
And if you can eat raw fennel, it's really nice with citrus, like grapefruit and oranges, because again, it's the season.
That's right.
Which we were just talking about. Yeah.
100%. So water, I'm going to drink this whole thing while singing out of the back of, no, I'm not going to do that at all. So this is 2 cups of water. I'm just going to go ahead and put this in here, all right? I am a big fan, if you've watched this before, of this stuff. This is better than bouillon. I would love to hear your comments. If you have a boxed stock, you know, those big boxes of stock, if you love one. If you don't love one, I would suggest getting some better than bouillon. I don't make money off of this. I just think it's really great. It doesn't take up a lot of space. If you like your stock, next time you use it, pour yourself a little glass and take a sip. If you don't like it just by itself, and we make the same thing, I like my stock and you may not like it, so already mine's going to be better. So sometimes it's such small things that we can do to make our cooking a little bit more easeful and a little bit more delicious as well. And just, you know,
And
question.
and it keeps in the fridge once you open it.
Oh,
So,
yes.
but what I was going to say, and we've mentioned this before over the years. You know, if you're a person who's having a hard time getting the protein in, I also recommend using bone broth in any kind of soup.
Okay.
Because that way it's the protein that I can get in a really easy way. And there are some bone broths that are on the market that are 15 to 20 grams of protein per cup.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a whole line.
Get back in the gym. My gosh, that's a lot of protein. Amazing. Okay. So yeah, bone broth would totally work with this. Really, any sort of liquid that you really enjoy. I mean, you could do chicken stock, you could do vegetable stock. I know that I happen to use chicken stock here. I really like the flavor. I think they work really well together. We're going to add some other ingredients to that once it's cooked down. I do need to put a lid on this. All right. A little chef tip. When you put a lid on your water, on your stock or whatever, it does boil faster. I think it's like 70% faster. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that lid on. That's on high. This thing is steaming away quite nicely. Sarai, right? So you can see that. So that's good. It smells amazing, by the way.
Alexandria here from San Antonio.
San Antonio.
And Juanita's from Virginia.
Virginia. Woo! UVA. Well, I went to JMU, but I just think UVA sounds really cool. And Sarah's originally from Dallas, Texas.
Woo-hoo.
That's what you get when you're from
Yeehaw.
Dallas. Yeehaw. You should see she's just like doing a little something on the side, and she just lassoed our mini long hair dachshund. He's on the ground upside down. So we have 3 things that are well underway right now. Okay. What do you think? What do you think we should do now?
You're almost at the point to check the temp in that.
For the pork?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that's important, and I mentioned this, if you were here from the very get-go, I did mention this. I'm not sure how hot this is right now. Okay, it's fine. I like to keep this little dial thermometer in the oven at all times. It's like $7, $8. Sometimes, quite honestly, most of the time, people's home ovens are not true to temperature. You'll pop it on 350. Today it's at 375. Let this sit in there or live in there so that after a while, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it says what it is, you can double check to make sure it actually is. In fact, for those of you that are doing any sort of baking for the holidays, this is what I want you to do. Take a sheet pan, just take a nice big sheet pan, and then take something where you can dust just regular all-purpose flour over the top of the sheet pan, and then put it in your oven. You will quickly realize where the hot spots are in your oven. You can do it with all 3 levels if you want to. I know exactly where my hot spots are because when I put a lightly dusted aluminum sheet pan in the oven, the back right corner, that flour gets darkest fastest. And that's why recipes will always say rotate halfway through, so that there are hot spots, and there normally are, things will cook a little bit more evenly. Okay, so that's what is that? A 3-cent tip, just to make things a lot easier for you when you're cooking for the holidays. All right. How are we doing on time? Oh yes, that's what I was going to talk about. Digital thermometer. Okay, you have one that's living in your oven. Digital thermometer is really important so that you know when to pull the pork at what temperature was that? So go ahead and pull it at, say, if you want it to be done at 165, you can actually pull it at 160 and it'll carry over probably close to 8 to 10 degrees over that time. And we'll touch on when to actually serve your pork, or when to serve your turkey. I hope you had a lovely Thanksgiving, or when to serve your whatever it is you're enjoying. Okay. You do not slice into it right away. That is your hint. So let's go ahead and check the temperature. Why not? Because it's in a cylinder, you want to check it at a couple different locations. It starts pretty thick and it goes down to something that's more of a point. What I've done is I folded it over, and I can show you in just a second. So it cooks more evenly. Let's check it. Your glasses, if they don't steam up like this, your oven's not on. Just a little point there. You can see that this point sort of unfolded just a little bit. That will definitely be cooked through. But if I put it halfway through on this part, it says 154 in the middle. Let's go to the thickest part, which is right here. That says 148. And over here, it says 155. I think that's a pretty good compromise.
Yep, in the middle.
Okay, cool. So right smack in the middle.
So you can eat a little from the side if you need to.
Yeah, this is gonna be like,
Yeah,
that'll be like 190. That little tip
Yep,
is
Sarah,
totally,
you got it. I'm gonna
You're-
give the most done part to the sick person.
you're totally fine. Okay, you're totally fine. Now, yeah. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take this off the sheet pan. Okay, take that off the sheet pan. We'll let that rip through. This I'm just gonna get out of the way because, turn the oven off, just get that out of the way. Right? Done. That goes in the sink. And I'm gonna let that rest off to the side. If I slice into it now, the temperature, believe it or not, it doesn't know that it's out of the oven. So what's happening is the outer portion of the pork tenderloin, it's still really hot. The middle part is not as hot, but the temperature is still pushing toward the middle of the pork tenderloin. That will happen for about 15 minutes before the temperature starts to level off and go down. If I were to slice into that pork tenderloin right now, or even in 5 minutes, or even in 10 minutes, I'm going to slice into it, and all those lovely juices, let's call them, are going to be all over your cutting board. Give it a good 15 minutes, okay? If you're worried about it cooling down, you can take a little piece of foil and you can cover the top of it, but I'm not that worried about it. But you can, okay? Its most important thing is to make sure it doesn't overcook, is to remove it from that hot sheet pan and put it off to the side.
I have a question for Mary Eve.
Question.
All right, this is from Alexandria. A gastro told my husband to drink 1 Coke a day. They said it would help with acid reflux. Curious what you would recommend. I think it sounds really stupid. I think he just wants the sugar, but he's been doing it. I think the cancer will spread since he used to drink 6 Mountain Dews a day. Curious if there's something that you would recommend that has the fizz, but is healthier. I've heard about Olipop. When he is doing chemotherapy, it's a struggle to just get him to eat it all.
Yeah.
Should I focus? Sorry, should I focus on him eating anything? I don't know if I should fight to have him eat healthier options.
Okay, so I'm wondering if he has a stent. So there's sometimes, depending on what's going on, if the esophagus is compressed, they'll put a stent in to open it up. And we do recommend people to drink fizzy drinks. This is kind of complicated, and it might not even be the thing, but the stents look like chain link fences. And so if you think of something like a chain link fence, you can get stuck in there. What the bubbles do is that they can keep that clear, but you only have to do that for like a couple of months. I don't normally recommend soda, but I hate to go against, a physician. I would say sparkling water, seltzer, that can have the same bubbly effect without having all of the things that come along with a regular soda.
Alexandria says he does not have a stent.
Then I don't know why they told him to do that, because that doesn't make any sense to me. But if it is something that they want him to do a carbonated something, again, I would do a carbonated seltzer is what I would recommend. Sometimes eating healthy with all the things that can be happening to somebody can be difficult, and then they don't eat at all. So it can be a balance between the two, right? So I try to get, the healthy things in that I want to do, but then I'm going to be a little bit more lenient. I really want to have ice cream. Well, you know what? It's got calories, it's got protein in it, and it counts as a fluid because it melts to room temperature. Mm-hmm. I really want to have Jell-O. Same thing. It's calories, it counts as fluid because it can melt to room temperature. So I find with my patients, it's a balance between trying to eat as healthy as I can, but then also being a little bit more liberal if eating is difficult.
There we go.
Great.
Actually, this conversation reminds me of the chef, incredible chef, and very close friend of mine, Hans Rufer. He was the one. He's known as the chef without a stomach. He just got out of the hospital recently, had a problem with his lung, but he seems to be fine. He was the one that introduced me to Debbie's Dream Foundation, actually, and he is the reason why I'm here. And I just wanted to do a little shout out to him. He is an anomaly because he and I talk about coffee and all sorts of crazy things.
Yeah.
And I will say this, and maybe those of you watching know this more than I do for sure. We've done a lot of things to raise funds for organizations as such that he really cares about and I really care about. And I remember getting a room with him in Northern California, and we went down to the front desk, and he's like, I need a couple pillows. And we went down, and he was like, I need like 6 pillows. I was like, you need 6 pillows. I have to see this. This is going to be like watching somebody from Cirque du Soleil, figure some stuff out. But it turns out because he doesn't have an esophagus or a stomach, he has to sleep sitting up. And so, spending a little bit of time with Hans was very humbling, and he taught me a lot about cooking. And I just want to, again, say thanks, and I love him. I think he's a great guy. Okay.
One last follow-up from Alexandria. She said that it was before an EGD. And also the question is, she's saying, is it all about calories, or should I also push the healthy stuff? Which I think you addressed a little bit in the kind of trying to find a balance.
Yeah. So if an EGD is just an endoscopy, they take a little camera and they go down. I'm wondering if the gastroenterologist saw something that kind of promoted him to think of bubbly things. So that kind of makes sense to me. Maybe it's, it wasn't a stent, but maybe it was something else going on. So seltzer. It can get really difficult. Like, I understand I need to be eating vegetables, right? But they're just not sitting right with me. Well, then can I drink a vegetable juice? I'm having a hard time, getting protein in, and I know I need fish, and I need nuts, and I need beans, and I need lentils, and none of that's sitting right. So yes, it's calories and protein, but it might be in a simpler way, right? So maybe I drink a veggie juice instead of sitting down to eating a salad, which I'm not going to eat a salad if I don't feel right. Yeah. This is the thing about what I do. It's individual. I don't have like a universal thing that I give people. It's an assessment. It's discussion. It's, meeting the patient where they are. I would really highly suggest to try to find an oncology dietitian in your area if you don't have one at your center. And you can go to eatright.org and you can search for a registered licensed dietitian, oncology specialist in your area. I think every patient undergoing cancer therapy needs to partner with an oncology dietitian.
That was
eatright.org. I'll get off my soapbox now.
Fantastic.
No, it's all super important, but thank you for that. That is very important.
So helpful. And we'll let you set up, and then I have another Mary D question.
Okay, so here's the setup. Bum. The setup is for this creamy pumpkin soup or for the chutney. What do you want to do first? What I want to show you all is that citrus actually does have a season as well, and we are in it. Apples, citrus, they go well together. I mean, I know that Florida has juicing oranges, and they're kind of available year round, but the rest of the country, most of California, has most of the citrus. This is a cara orange, like a rose orange is what we call it. It was a mutant that happened. It almost never has seeds. The season right now is December through April. It is very sweet. It is low in acid. It is like 4 times healthier with phytonutrients than, say, a Valencia orange. I think you should go out and get them. But when you find them, what you want to do is with all citrus, let's say lemons, limes, oranges, grapefruit, you want to make sure they're heavy for their size. We've all had, say, a grapefruit or an orange, and it's really big, and you slice into it, and about that much of it, like an inch of it, is just the white pith portion. And I feel a little bit, I don't know, like cheated somehow. But if you pick up an orange next to a large grapefruit, sometimes the orange is actually heavier. I also recommend getting organic whenever possible, quite honestly, whenever you possibly can. They spray them quite a bit, but now the baking season is upon us. You'll know that because the song that I came in with spices. And I use the zest a lot because that's where all the essential oils are located. So if you want to make some cookies or want to add some of this to a soup to brighten it up, bring a little bit of a citrus flavor to it, you can zest it and it's going to be fantastic. You can also freeze juice quite well. So if you're not really sure what to do with the juice, you can freeze it, have it at the ready, and store oranges in the refrigerator. Same with apples, but store them in the fridge. They'll last about 10 times longer. And the reason for that is because if I juiced this orange, put it in a little glass for you. You would not just let it sit on the counter like we do our oranges. Think of these as like little glasses of orange juice and just keep them in the fridge, okay?
So you're gonna add that to the soup,
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so let me show you what's happening here.
and then we'll have Mary Eve answer a question.
Holy moly, that is really hot, right? So I'm gonna add a couple things to this soup right now, okay? You may have seen me, I had forgotten to add the thyme, and I just kind of slipped it in there when Mary Eve was talking in hopes that you didn't know, but I just feel so
You
guilty.
have to confess.
I'm the youngest of three, I'm so guilty, I feel terrible. But the thyme plays an important role as far as getting a little bit of flavor in there, a little bit of herbaceous as well. I'm gonna add a bunch of stuff now. I'm going to be adding a fair amount of ginger, okay? Add as much or as little as you wish. If you don't feel like doing a microplane, you can just chop the heck out of it because we're gonna put this in a blender or an immersion one. So the ginger goes in there. I'm gonna put a fair amount of orange juice in that. Let me bring it over here so you can see it. And again, these cars don't have really any seeds in it, so I'll just go ahead and give them a nice squeeze. I've turned the heat off because the fennel is definitely going to be cooked through. It's nice and soft. It's translucent. It smells of thyme. It smells of fennel. It smells of hopes and dreams. It smells good. It smells good, right? So this goes on the ground. We're going to add some spices. Mary Eve, I'm telling you, this is your day. Cinnamon, turmeric, a little bit of salt and pepper. That goes in there. Okay? I mean, this is talk about the hits. This is the Mary Eve hits here. Maple syrup. How do we feel about maple syrup? Because I'm not going to use a lot, just for a little bit of flavor. It is in season right now, but I do know it is a sugar, as it were. How do you feel about that?
I am cool with that because it also has antioxidant properties to it. Honey is the same way. They're natural. So, yep, perfect.
Okay. I'm only going to add about a tablespoon, and that's just to even some of the flavors out. Here we go. About a tablespoon of that goes in, not without taking the lid portion off. That is also something that even chefs do wrong sometimes. Even live, these things happen to the best of us. And then I'm going to add a can of pumpkin puree. Just pumpkin puree. I know how you feel about pumpkin puree. Originally, this recipe had no pumpkin in it, and Sarah said from the other room, throw pumpkin in it. No, it's not true. But yeah, it's amazing. The thyme has done its job. That is to the side. And a little bit of butter. Well, a lot, actually. This is 4 tablespoons of butter. It's cold butter, and what's going to happen is when you use an immersion one, you're going to emulsify this. Cold butter's fine. It's not going to cool it down, but it really gives it a lovely texture. It gives it that wonderful fat that we're going to need right now. But we have cinnamon, ginger, pumpkin, fennel. It is a party happening inside there.
So that just needs to get blended.
This is it. You would blend it in the immersion wand, or you would put all those ingredients in a blender and just blend it until it's nice and smooth.
Jeff, what about using like coconut milk instead of the butter? Would that work or no?
Coconut milk, it would. I mean, it would definitely work as far as it would take you to a place that would certainly be a little bit more tropical. I would say yes. I'm going to give that one to you, Mary Eve. I'm going to say yes. But clearly you have to like coconut, but it would have a much more tropical flavor. Would that work with turmeric? That's back to you. Turmeric? Ginger?
Yes.
Ginger?
Yes. They love each other, those 3. Ooh, I'm getting a little risque
there. And this is why we're together. This is why these things happen. So that soup, by and large, is done. Okay? Another question?
Now my question for Mary Eve this is from a patient. Now that cold and flu season are here, and I am my cancer treatment, how do I keep my immune system adequate?
Oh, that's a really good question. So again, it's eating a wide variety of plants. They're going to give you the vitamins and minerals that you need. Making sure you're keeping well hydrated. And we've talked about how to do that, right? So I take my body weight, divide it by 2.2. That gives me my kilos. And that number is my hydration. So if I'm a 72 kilo person, I need 72 ounces of fluid every day. So hydration, plants, giving yourself the vitamins and minerals that you need, and then making sure that you're getting the protein in. Because if you don't get the protein in, you can't build healthy cells. And what I was just talking about with those white cells, they need protein to regenerate themselves. So protein, plants, and keeping hydrated would be the three things I would say. And then wearing a mask around people who are sick.
There you go. It is good to stay nice and healthy and wash your hands a lot.
A lot.
I wash my hands. I'm borderline washing my hands too many times, but because I went to culinary school, the importance of no cross-contamination. When I was a medical technician, you got to wash your hands a lot. So, it's just one of these things. Whenever you're somewhere where it's very cold and people's wiping their nose and they grab that doorknob, that's a point of cross-contamination. So I'm always like not touching my eyes. I don't even need glasses. These are just
They're your shield. They're your shield, right?
They are my shield. Yes.
A question maybe for both of you. How do you feel about ghee? Do you like it better or only butter?
Okay.
Any ghee problems here?
It's not a problem. I mean, ghee is butter that's been cooked down, if you will. A lot of the solids fall out of solution. The water goes away, and you're left with this pure fat. Has a great flavor. The smoke point is very high in comparison to just regular butter because there are no milk solids in there. I don't see it as a problem. The one thing that I will say that butter has over ghee is if you want something to have a smoother texture. So whenever you're emulsifying a sauce, ghee will not emulsify that because it doesn't have those milk solids in it. And it doesn't have that extra water in it that makes it emulsify better. Ghee is just pure fat, and that's flavor, which is wonderful as far as transferring, those essential oils into solution. But if you're trying to make something nice and smooth, I would say go with butter. Mary Eve?
Yeah, so the one thing that you just said, which is I think really powerful that people don't think about, is that oils have different smoke points. And, olive oil has a very low smoke point. And you really don't want to use smoked oils because they actually are carcinogenic. So if you are wanting to cook something at a very high heat, you need to use an oil or a fat that's going to match that temperature, and ghee does. The other things, I have a small percentage of my patients who can't do any lactose at all. So even butter will bother them. So they will do oil or will do ghee. Yeah. And the other thing is, we should be using more oils and butter and those kinds of things should really be like an additive or a topping to something. I'm not going to use it to cook as much as I'm using oil.
Good.
Yeah, so I have another question for Mary Eve, but I'll let you set up the blend.
So this is the setup. This is number 4 out of 5. Holy moly, we still have another one to go. Jiminy crackers. Things are getting nervous. So this is gonna be a little crazy. This is our holiday dessert smoothie. Okay, we have what do we have? We have nutmeg. What are the 3 spices we have here? My apologies. Nutmeg, clove, and dried ginger. Now this is gonna be interesting. It's not fresh ginger, but it's dried, and I also have a little bit of vanilla bean extract. 2 questions for you. One of which, vanilla bean extract has the certain percentage of alcohol in it that's the same as, say, vodka. Is there any issue with adding some vanilla extract into something? And then secondly, the ginger, it's dried. Does that have less health benefits than fresh ginger?
No, they still have health benefits. And so I talk about extracts a lot because sometimes if people are trying to drink like nutritional drinks or shakes, and the flavor's not there yet, using an extract can really help with taste profile. So vanilla or lemon, or extracts come in so many different flavors. So that's a really good tip to elevate the flavor of something that you're trying to drink that's nutritional, that's not quite there. Add an extract, super easy.
And you had milk and yogurt and banana in there.
Yes. So frozen banana, ice, yogurt, whole milk, plain yogurt, and I guess that was it. Yeah.
So while you blend that, let me ask Mary Eve a question.
Here we go.
If we have to drink our kilo weight in water, how can someone with no stomach drink so much water? Water is hard for some stomachless patients. Can something like Gatorade or coconut water help with hydration? Even still.
Anything.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Sarah.
Hard.
Go ahead.
That's it.
Yeah. That's a really good. So anything caffeine free can count towards my hydration. It doesn't have to be water. And sometimes people, when they're drinking water, if they don't have much of a stomach, they get full of the fat and they're not able to eat solid food. So marrying something that's caffeine free, that's got nutrition in it, is a good plan. Like the smoothie. Um, if you're using Gatorade or Powerade or the sport drinks for oral rehydration, they're not. You need to add some water to it. You need to half it, and then it does become one. Gatorade did put out a new product. It's called Gator Light, which is a oral rehydration drink, and there's also Pedialyte. But yeah, anything caffeine free can count. Okay, the other great thing that Chef just did, he put it in a pretty glass. It makes a huge, we eat with our eyes, right? So if I put my nutritional drink in a fancy, beautiful glass, I like to look at that and I will drink that as opposed to drinking it out of a bottle. Ugh, right? So, yay, you, chef.
Awesome. Let's see.
That's good.
Alexandria asked if we could post something about water instructions. Yeah, that DDF will read that and for sure take that to heart. Which oils to cook with for which cooking temperature? Do you have a chart for both? There's a ton of charts online. Do you have a resource that you like to go to, Nathan, that is a good like a Cook's Illustrated or a
Cook's Illustrated is a really great one to have. They recently through Instagram had posted a single page on the different oils and the culinary applications, and I think maybe even smoke points of those. But just be aware, I met somebody for the very first time at the Hollywood Farmers Market who's allergic to avocado. Avocado oil is one of the things that's used a lot in different types of cooking here in Southern California. But if you're allergic, that's not very good, but it has a very high smoke point. We use mainly two types of oils in this household. We use grape seed oil, one because I love wine, and that just seems like a full, complete thought to me. The grape seeds are there. So grapeseed oil, it's clear, it has a high smoke point, and extra virgin olive oil because of the flavor and the health benefits. So there you go. All right? Good? Okay, it's still me. Well, it's still me. Hello, everybody. Pork tenderloin, it has been resting for at least 15 minutes, which means the temperature is starting to go down. So when I slice into it, there isn't any excess pressure inside these cell walls to sort of pop open, and it's going to be pretty dry here. Now, I am not a fan or advocate for the whole straight slicey thing. I'm just not. If you see me cut carrots, it's just crazy. I'm rolling it and cutting it to where you get the really cool textures, but you can slice it on an angle as such, okay? I'm gonna hold my knife and just give it a slice like this. I let the knife do the slicing. If you're sawing like this, your knife probably isn't very sharp, okay? You start with the base and you just sort of like roll your wrist and a lot of slicing will happen. If you're sawing like this, you'll see a lot more juices be lost just because you're damaging a lot of the cells. This isn't so bad. I'm feeling okay about this. There's still a little bit of pink left, even though we did cook it to 100 and I don't know what temperature that was. 155, probably 160, but it's still really delicate. It's still a little bit pink, which is wonderful for me. It's still very moist. I am happy with this product, okay? I'm going to push this off to the side.
So while you plate that up,
Yes.
I have a Mary Eve question.
Amazing.
All right, from a patient. I love food and my restricted diet has me feeling very sad, particularly during this holiday season. I can't eat any of my favorite foods anymore. Any ideas to try to make eating more enjoyable?
Yeah, and this time of year and any holiday, right? It's food, right? It's all about, the food. And if you're not having a great appetite or not feeling well, it can really be a downer. So let me pull on some things that we've done in our family because, cancer touches everybody, I think, these days. One thing that we did was we had a family member who was undergoing cancer treatment. And this is what I did because that's what I do. I asked her, I said, like, what can you eat right now? And then making sure that that dish was there. But if it's you and you're going to something, bring your own food to it that you can eat. That way you can still engage with everybody, but you're safe with what you've brought. Another thing that we did, we still do, is we try to have an activity that's a fun activity. And so that we're not concentrating on, who's eating, who's not eating. And so we have a raucous game of bingo at my Christmas party. It gets very competitive and it's a ton of fun. And even if you're a person who doesn't want to eat, you can still partake with all the people. You want to still be involved in the activity, but the activity doesn't need to be around the food. It could be other things. So maybe there's a bunch of videos online, I know, of family activities, of games during the holidays. So maybe play a game, maybe do something, outside, another activity, bring your own food, maybe eat before you go. That way you're not tempted to eat something that is not going to sit right with you. Also engage whoever is throwing the party to say, hey, if it's okay, I'm going to bring my own things. I have a patient who does that. She always brings her own things because she doesn't want to be stuck somewhere that none of that's going to work for me, and I'm not going to feel good the whole time. So those are just a couple of things I can think of that I've done, or I've had patients do. But yeah, it can be difficult. But bring your own things. I think that's a win-win. And I don't think anybody would take offense to that if they know your journey of what you're going through.
Bring your own things is important. I mean, it goes back to bringing exactly what you want. It's funny because sometimes I will go to people's homes, and Sarah and I will bring a certain thing, and we're like, make sure we get that. It's almost like bringing a bottle of wine. You're like, make sure we get a little bit of that wine. And then everyone's kind of happy. It takes a lot of the pressure off. My mom is vegan, and going places with my mom can be a little bit, difficult only because there's a lot of things that she won't eat. And so I'll make something special for just my mom, just to make that happen so that she knows that she can sit down and enjoy the rest of the party in the process. All right, so this is what I'm making right here. We only have a couple of minutes, and I decided to wait to the last second just to make this really quick dessert. So this is a maple vanilla tapioca pudding. For those of you that like tapioca, it's exactly what you remember as a child. My brother Eric hates tapioca. It's super duper easy to make. I have an egg in here that I whisked, add some milk, also a little bit of maple syrup, not too much. This is the tapioca. I'm going to sprinkle this in, give it a quick whisk, and I'm going to let it sit for 5 minutes, okay? After that, we bring it to a boil over medium heat, then you're done. Once it's to a boil, you just put it off to the side. You can put it inside these containers if you wish. If you want to make it festive and lovely, you can put it in here. The texture, if you've never had tapioca, is a lot like rice pudding. It is really wonderful. You don't have to use milk. You can use a milk alternative if you want to. You can add a little protein powder if you want to gussy it up, but use as much or as little of a sweetener as you wish. But for the festive season, I thought we would just go ahead and do a little magic dust.
What is that?
Right across just right across the top like that. This is pumpkin pie spice, everyone. It is pumpkin pie spice season, which means the festivities have officially begun. Mary Eve Brown, I cannot thank you enough for the wealth that is in your brain. I think from a chef's perspective, per gram, it is the most expensive thing that I know on this earth. It is worth so very much to me and all the patients that are watching and all of us that are taking care of friends that are going through, quite a bit during this time of the season, this time of the year. So thank you, Mary Eve Brown. I really appreciate your time, and everyone that has been here, everyone that asked these wonderful questions. Sarah, anything else?
Oh, we have 4 more of these next year, so stay tuned because we'll be back with you 2025.
4 more next year, but we have 5 different things that we made today, pretty much in real time: a dessert, pork, soup, a smoothie, a sauce. We've been really, really thankful to have you in our lives during this time. I'm going to go ahead and just stop talking, pull off to the side, because I know that we have some really important sponsors that make these Debbie's Dream Foundation cook-alongs and cooking demos happen. So huge thanks to you, huge thanks to the sponsors, and huge thanks to Debbie's Dream Foundation and Mary Eve Brown for letting Sarah and I participate in something so important and so delicious. And with that, a curtsy for everyone. All right, everybody. See you next year.